the best thing you can do is keep your mouth closed and listen to what they have to say. And when they say something important, acknowledge that you understood what they said, because that goes a long way to booking the appraisal, getting the job, and establishing a relationship with that individual that they're comfortable with.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name is Rick Nusky. Welcome back if you are a regular listener, and if you're new to the show, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. Now, on today's show, I'm talking with the wonderful David Williams. He is the owner and founder of Auto Appraisal Network, and we're going to be talking about his business, Auto Appraisal Network, and we're going to take a deeper dive into the important role of the auto appraiser and what makes an auto appraiser successful, and the different ways to determine replacement value. Now, that's a mouthful, isn't it, David? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's absolutely great to have you here. Now, David and I were just speaking a little earlier about the ins and outs of the Auto Appraiser Network, and there's a lot for us to cover in a relatively short amount of time. But first of all, David, let's learn a little bit more about you. Where are you located? Where's home for you?
I'm right here in Orange County, California, Southern California.
Fantastic, and it's obviously summertime there?
Yes, it is.
Now, being that you're in the automotive industry, do you have hobbies, and would one of them be cars?
Yes, obviously, yeah. I spend a lot of time going car shows, and a lot of my friends have collectible cars. I work on my own personal vehicle, and so me and all my peers all have that automotive bug in common.
Do you have one in particular in your collection, or do you just have one, or?
I don't have, it's funny, as an appraiser, I don't have a collection. I have a lot of clients with cars.
Yep.
And I end up with a lot of friends that ask me to hold their vehicles. So they're like, one of my friends is getting divorced. He says, please stash this car for me, and I'll keep it insured and registered, and you can drive it. So yeah, I have a lot of different cars, Porsches, Ferraris, exotic cars, basic cars. Yeah, I love having cars, and I always had some really nice cars in our office.
Do you have a favorite?
As far as a favorite, I don't have a favorite car. I like some obscure cars. Di Tommaso Pantera is one of my favorite cars. Mm-hmm. So if I had to have one right now, I'd say I'd love to have a Pantera.
Yeah, you know what? We've got a place called the Birdwood Museum here where I live, and they have all of the eras of vehicles, and it is an amazing experience when you go to these places, and they start off with the wooden wheel type vehicle all the way up to current day and everything in between. It's like going through a time warp. Do you, I guess my question is, how far back in the auto appraiser business do you go with the vehicles?
On a regular basis, I appraise brass era cars to 1890. So they're all some of the original vehicles that from the day. I remember one of the cars that stands out the most is one of the original Porsches. It was a big wagon wheel type of vehicle, but it was electric. Yep. So back in the day, those original cars that Porsche was a tractor manufacturer. And so one of their first cars was actually electric.
So when you're in the appraisal game, I can only imagine some of the exotics that you would see. What are some of the most expensive ones that you've seen?
Oh wow, there's been a couple that are just like mind-boggling. I can't believe my eyes when I see it. So one of them would be one of my clients has what's called a NART Ferrari. So back in the 60s, Ferrari did not produce any convertible cars, and the local importer in the United States wanted to import, believed that they would be easier to sell Ferraris if they had a convertible. And keep in mind, back in the day, Ferrari didn't have a dealership network or parts or service or mechanics or anything. And so one of the first cars they came out with, or one of the cars that he wanted imported was called it was actually it's called a Berlinette, and they chopped the roof off it and made it a convertible. So his organization was called the North American Race Team, and so those early cars, there's 10 of them, and they're called NART, N-A-R-T. And I got to appraise one of those, and I have a client that has one in his portfolio that we update on a regular basis, and it's probably in the $50 million range.
That's blow away.
Yeah.
I sit here thinking to myself, I'm looking at and speaking with an encyclopedia of knowledge. Now, as somebody who has started the business in this game, I'd love to first learn about the genesis of the organisation. How did it come about?
It was purely out of necessity. I needed to stay employed, and I've always, prior to being in the appraisal business, I have an engineering background, so I worked as an electrical engineer. I worked in nuclear physics. I worked on all kinds of particle accelerators for the universities. Yep. And my job I had right before doing auto appraisal business, they were acquired by a company that was headquartered in Colorado, and we were in California. And they said that they would relocate all the everybody that needed to go out there. And I declined the relocation because I'm from California. I'm not moving. I could do something in California and I'd just get another job.
Yep.
And so basically, out of necessity, they offered me a position helping them transfer all of the products that we had in California and all the support and everything to Colorado. And during that time, they financed my office, my internet, my cell phones, everything I needed to run a business, except for I wasn't working full time. I helped them transition everything out to where it needed to go. But in that time period, I had been doing my form of what an appraisal report was, and my friends would ask me to do these things for them, and I'd do it, and I just developed a system for sending them photographs and communicating with them, value and condition, all this different stuff. Since I had developed that, I used the time that my employer was paying for to look into, if it was a viable business for me to do appraisals, and if I did appraisals, if I wanted to do it big, how could I utilize people out in local markets in, say, Florida and Maine and Portland and San Diego and a lot of different people to work together to do these appraisals on a national basis. And what are the legal requirements to do that? What are the pitfalls? Try to put together some kind of a business model to where that people in those markets could do that, and I could utilize what I knew about cars and the appraisal report that I had developed to have everyone work together and do the same thing in the same quality. So I got an attorney, and we figured out the best plan of action to for the business, whether it would be under a licensing agreement or franchising or individual businesses. So I work with CPAs and I work with attorneys and work that out. So my previous employer basically funded my development of Auto Appraisal Network into what it is now.
How good is that?
It just worked out just because I'm a lucky guy. That's the only reason.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, they often say the harder you work, the luckier you get. And there's clearly a lot of work that's gone into this. Let's be sure and certain about that much. Now, I think to myself, well, if you have to have a level of knowledge and skill and you have a franchise system, how do you bring in people that are a good fit for your organization as franchisees?
Well, it is by trial and error. In the early days when we first started out, I was very aggressive about identifying people with that were financially qualified to get into this and probably had less knowledge of automobiles. And what I quickly found out was that there's a certain social profile that I wanted in an individual that's going to represent our organization. And so I kind of once I understood what made a good appraiser and what made one that was not what I wanted. I was able to focus on a whole different set of people, and not focus on selling, and more focused on the individual's capabilities and what their contribution was going to be to the network. So, that's the kind of thing that I think you probably in any business, in the early days, you probably find out more about what you don't want to do, and less about what you do want to do, and the rest kind of falls into place.
So with this organization, do you deal with purely automobiles? Who do you serve, and what type of vehicles?
We actually do appraisals on all kinds of different vehicles. We do appraise airplanes for value, and we appraise
There's
boats.
one I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, not something I actually wanted to do, but a lot of times when you get somebody wants an appraisal on an airplane, it's because they have a collection of different vehicles, and maybe they're going through a divorce or it's an estate settlement, and they just want somebody to come in and put a value on everything, and there happens to be an airplane in the back of the warehouse, or a motorcycle, or a boat, or whatever it is. And so the process for an airplane is not a whole lot different than a car or a motorcycle. I mean, you still need to look at what it is, identify it, what are all the price points on it, what kind of avionics, airframe hours, all that kind of stuff. And surprisingly enough, if you're going to appraise an airplane, there's software out there that'll help you work through that and itemize and value all those different attributes. So that process is kind of like with the value guides that we use for cars. And so there's a value guide for airplanes, and there's all kinds of value points and data for motorcycles and boats, and a lot of the different things that we appraise that are not automotive based. Yeah.
There's lots going on in the world, as you and I have spoken about earlier, David. I just wonder, have you needed to innovate to survive, and how has the recent, the goings on around the world affected your business? Yeah,
so in the early days, we've been in business for 16 years, and during those 16 years, we've had what I'd call two significant downturns that could have wiped us out. But one of the things that we did in the early days that we hadn't planned on was periodically, we get calls and people ask us to appear in court as expert witnesses. We do appraisals for people getting divorced. We do, we look at people's estates and put values on the estate that, that's been left, and help them make choices on, how they want to proceed with the estate. So when we started this franchise in 2006, our focus was going to be on hot rods and high-end cars and everything that you'd see being built on the Discovery Channel. We did the appraisals on all those vehicles, and we knew all the builders, and a lot of those builders are right here in Orange County. So that's what we focused on. But in 2008, when the market crashed, and you watch the news every day about all the terrible things that were going on, what really came to light was when the phones rang, people were getting divorced. People were closing businesses. There was a lot of different reasons to continue to do appraisals that I had never anticipated it would be a segue for us to continue doing business in good times and bad. So our diversity in the services that we offer are flexible enough that that we've done well in good times and bad. This most recent downturn with COVID, I kind of assumed at one point I looked at, hey, I'm going to have some time to do stuff. I had projects around the house that I need to do. There's some things I wanted to do. I'm going to have all this free time on my hands. I'm going to put them to good use. But, honestly, ever since COVID kicked in, I've been working long hours. I work on the weekends. We're constantly busy because one of the things that I didn't really think about with COVID is divorces are sky high, estate settlements are sky high,
through the roof,
and we have a record number of collections that we need to appraise for both divorces and estates. Folks all around the country that are doing appraisals, in their local markets they're getting impacted by record numbers of appraisals for those divorces and estates. COVID's kind of wrapping up now, and you'd think things would kind of die off a little bit. But guess what? All those people that have been sitting at home for the last year and a half haven't been driving. They all got in their cars and they went on the freeway and crashed. And so we have claims for insurance companies are right now are pretty high. And I mean, I have more appraisals now than we can actually do. And periodically I turn people down just because I just want to do the easy ones.
Yeah, well done. A line of least resistance. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of people on this call, David, who are very interested in this, and I'd love if you could explain the benefits of, I guess, the franchise business model, and why would it be of benefit for someone to get into such a thing?
For me, I mean, I'm a franchisor, but I think from the franchisee's perspective, one of the best things that I can offer a franchisee is we have a lot of experience doing this.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it not only just the appraisals, but we've been supporting our franchisees in the field, and with providing our experience to even somebody that's new. The longer we do this, the quicker we can get somebody up and running and doing something that they may be passionate about. So I'm not going to sign somebody up to support a territory unless they have met the prerequisites, and the biggest being, be a car enthusiast, have the yearning to go out and do something on their own and create it. Well, I can shorten that process up a lot by providing to them, here's our solution. When you get into Auto Appraisal Network, we have worked out all the bugs. We're constantly addressing new bugs that pop up.
Yeah.
We're going to have new challenges like COVID that pop up, and we work with a lot of different vendors that help us. We work with vendors that haven't in the past, so we can kind of point them away from those vendors and get them in a direction with our successful people. So it's Auto Appraisal Network, and we have a network of people that have been very successful, and those individual franchisees can help out existing franchisees, and we all work together as one big network.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Now, you talked about development of a software earlier, and now I'm thinking leading into systems and mobility. Do you rely heavily on systems, and do you have like auto appraisers taking out tablets or things like that to do the appraisals? What's the actual process? Is it similar across your network?
Yeah, we have. In the early days, I developed a simple software application that kind of, when you open it up and start doing an appraisal, it kind of morphs around whatever the requirement is. So we offer a lot of different services on a lot of different kinds of vehicles. And so as you go through the process of entering an appraisal into our system, it's going to adapt to to the notes and options and all the different things that you're going to see on the vehicle are going to kind of morph around what you need it to be, but not limit you to whatever you're looking at. So you have the flexibility to, as an example, use options from a hot rod to do a prior to loss appraisal on a vehicle. It doesn't have to be a dead stock vehicle. So we have a lot of flexibility that's built into the software, and it is being developed. In the early days, we took the application and we adapted it to run on a tablet. But what we found is due to the volume of pictures that we take for each appraisal, and being able to communicate with our servers in our home office, tablets don't have they just don't have the horsepower to handle an appraisal like a laptop does. So up until now, we've been primarily working with laptop computers, digital cameras in our software application. Just today, I'm working with I have a new developer that works with me, and we're again upgrading the older systems to the newer systems to include all the new computers are coming out with 64-bit applications. We have new ways to process credit cards that the appraiser can handle in the field instead of having it come in the office for us to process. Sometimes you'll put some credit card information and there'll be something be wrong and it won't go through. If they can deal with that in the field and they can get confirmation that they've been paid, that shortens up their process. It shortens up our process. And the only thing we really have to focus on here in the office is completing the report, and we're not getting tied up fixing credit card stuff. So we have a lot of different things that are going on, and I think working on a tablet or even a cell phone in the future is certainly something that we would love to be able to do, but we're waiting for that hardware to reach that point that it can actually handle the processing that's required to do the photographs and make the connection and send that stuff to our home office.
I'm one for continuous improvement. Now, I can tell that you are too. You like the idea of, I guess, incrementally making changes that benefit the entire network. Is there some sort of a way that, I guess, a bit of a get-together where you talk to your franchisees occasionally? How does that side of the business work?
Absolutely. We try to have at least quarterly or at least twice a year meetings with everyone contributing. And it's easy to talk to people about what's good, but the most important thing is to talk about what's not working. I always want to know what's not working because collectively, all the individual people, somebody's going to have a solution that we can implement or something that we can do different either in the field or we can do it at home. The ultimate goal is to make sure that whatever we're doing is we're still, number one, we're still having fun doing it. And we're making money doing it. And so if we're doing that, we want to be as efficient about it as we possibly can. And that's going to include, continuous change and being flexible enough to, be able to do things that we don't normally do, accommodate special requests and that kind of stuff. So, we work towards that, but I don't see a point where it will ever stop.
Yeah.
We're done with the software, it's done, pack it up, and we're ready to go. I think we'll probably always be changing it.
Always be doing something. It seems to me, David, that you have the software, and that really is the common piece between all the franchisees in the network. Like many retail franchisors, is there an expectation that I guess you look the same, you wave the same flag as it were? What's the expectations in terms of behavior, culture, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the appraisal process usually starts with your marketing effort. So we have a pretty uniform marketing message that we put out to people. Our branding, everybody uses the same branding because we're Auto Appraisal Network. We all work together. Everything that we do is cohesive, and that way everyone can leverage off the same type of stuff. All of our websites, while the content is different, they all have the same look and feel. Because we centrally process the appraisal reports as they come through the office. There are certain things that we do that we need to keep up with. Maybe a law's changed, or there's certain verbiage that we want to add that we learned from going to court one day. There's a lot. We get input from people all the time, and sometimes it comes across as maybe a customer complaint, and we look at that and we go, well, maybe we could just change it across the board and everybody would be happy. But it's it seems like the longer that you go on, you would have less of that. But we don't. There's always somebody. There's always somebody making a contribution and a change, or that's something we can do different. It's never ending, and so we're always looking for new things to do and new ways to do it. And if there's something going on out there that's a trend, we want to find out what that is and how it applies to what we do. But a lot of things that we do, other organizations don't, and so we're setting the pace right now for the appraisal business.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's a credit to you, all the hard work that you're doing. But it mustn't feel like hard work given the passion that you have for this. You wake up of a morning and you know what? I can't sleep. I've got to get up and got to do stuff. Is that how you feel?
You hit the nail right on the head. I don't sleep. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a whole bunch of stuff that I have ideas about, and I get up and I try to implement them and go out and see what I can do, or research this or research that. And maybe 9 out of 10 of them don't work out, but every once in a while you hit on one, and it's something that we implement and we do going forward. So, and I get great feedback from our people in the field. We talked with one another and we try to figure things out. There's appraisers out there in our network that I'm really very, very comfortable with. Them knowing the ins and outs of the appraisals. They have an interest in it. Where we have some that are not really interested in the ins and out of the appraisal business. They just want to make sure they're getting done on a regular basis. Others are intimately embedded in the process, understand it, and I love having them around to bounce stuff off of and talk to them about things and change this and change that and what can we do different.
Yeah. Oh, look, I know that there's a lot of people on this call that are really enjoying it, and I appreciate you opening up and sharing some of the inside rail to what happens inside the business. Now, there's also a lot of terminology that people looking into this for the first time may not understand. I'm wondering if you could share with me, what does diminished value claim mean?
Well, I mean, the funny thing about diminished value is it's a terrible service to try to market because nobody knows what diminished value is. When you really think about what it means, you can kind of tell somehow the values change for whatever reason. But I mean, diminished value is the change in value due to in this case an accident. So somebody's been in an accident and they get their car fixed, they get it back, and for whatever reason, whether they're going to try to resell it or at a later date they're going to use it for a trade-in or they're going to sell it private party, they're not going to be able to sell it for as much money as they could have had is if it didn't have this accident. And so, when you really take a look at that, well, what's the root cause? Well, the guy that hit my car and devalued my car. So there are damages there. And so diminished value was actually developed by insurance companies in the past to cover certain requirements that they had because they were basically leasing cars out to rental car companies. Rental car companies were crashing them, and then they needed some way to, how are we going to quantify the loss of value due to these accidents, and how are we going to be compensated? And so that when you rent a car at at the rental counter, they're going to charge you $20 a day for insurance. Well, if you look at rental car insurance times 365 days, you go, wow, that's some super expensive insurance. How do they justify that? Well, they justify it with diminished value and the loss of value because they rented this car out and they got it back and they lost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Fast forward to probably the late 90s, the insurance companies, even though they invented it, they denied it. They said, oh, wait a minute, that was for us. That was not for you. We developed diminished value for us to get compensated. It wasn't for us to compensate you. And so you go and you look at the case laws. What are the laws on the books that justified them charging that $20 rental rate? We have diminished value. And, the basic concept behind it is the car's lost value because it's been an accident. Well, guess what? You turn it around, we package it, and we go back to the insurance company and say, hey, my client has lost value on his vehicle because your client was at fault in this accident. He's therefore liable for the loss of value. And for years and years and years, the insurance company would not pay these claims. Went to court and fought them, and did all put all the case law together, and now they're paying them. And so on a regular basis, people call, and nobody calls and asks for diminished value. They call, and the basic story is, hey, I've been in an accident. I know when I go to sell this car, I'm not going to be able to sell it for as much had I not been in this accident. What do I do? So, we go out, we market the service, we provide the service to people, we help them, file these claims and, get paid for their loss. Whether they sell the car or they they turn it in as a trade-in, at some point they have to be compensated, or they should be compensated for that loss that occurred in the past, and that's what we help them with.
There's some things that have come out of that you were talking about insurance companies, and one of the things that came to mind was relationships. You must have a lot of relationships, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about that and how it affects your franchisees. And do they have to take care of their own insurances? How does that side of everything work?
Yeah, I mean, it's as far as the individuals and their insurance coverage, it's a business. So. Yeah. I tell everyone that comes to Auto Appraisal Network, you need to have liability insurance, whether it's through your personal car, or you have a business liability insurance, whatever it is, you as an individual are going to be liable for anything that happens that you have control over. So if an individual's out taking a picture of a car and they drop their camera, that's their fault, and they're liable for those damages. And so they need to have insurance coverage for that. And there's, the thing about, liability insurance for individuals is that the first couple of years, you don't have a history and there's no claims, and so they charge you a lot more. But as you are out there and you have the coverage and you've been paying your premiums without any claims, it drops down. So it's the liability insurance that our individuals in the field have is very affordable. Now, as a business here in the office, we have what's called errors and omissions, so that if we make a mistake or something we have control over, and we make a mistake on a report and we're held liable for it, we have insurance for it. So at every turn, we have some kind of insurance coverage that is going to protect us, to keep us from losing, what we've worked hard for, and that it does come at a cost, but it's one of those things. It's like gambling in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to do what you need to do to protect yourself, and in this day and age, it's insurance.
Well, it's a litigious world we live in. We obviously need people like you at the front of the pack to guide the rest of the team along. And again, there's a lot of work that goes into it. Now, I'm looking at your bio, and I looked over to the website, and there's a lot going on there. Now, when people want to find you, where are they going to find you? And when they get there, what's on your website?
They're most likely going to be, inquiring about, either being an appraiser, or they're looking for an appraisal service. So when they go to our website, there's going to be, there's going to be some pages in there that are going to be specifically dealing with the different types of services that we offer. We don't want to spend a lot of time on the ins and outs of it, because everybody comes to us and they have something special about their needs, or maybe something special about an accident they've been in, maybe something special about a car they've had built, or they're going through, everybody always calls them, they're always, I don't want to say they're ashamed, but they always kind of, beat around the bush. I'm getting divorced. And I need So, whatever they call for, obviously, discretion's, going to be important in those situations, but they also have a need. As an example, people are getting divorced. You always assume the husband's keeping the car. I had a lady call, and she had a race car, and she was keeping the car, and there's a lot of things that you have to, talk to them about, understand, what their situation is, and
navigate.
No, don't make an assumption, because you come across people every day that you go, okay. And I advise all my people, I say, the best thing you can do is keep your mouth closed and listen to what they have to say. And when they say something important, acknowledge that you understood what they said, because that goes a long way to booking the appraisal, getting the job, and establishing a relationship with that individual that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, that's wonderful feedback. So, what is the actual website domain?
AutoAppraisalNetwork.com.
Fantastic. That's an easy one to remember. Now, if you're tuning into today's call and you're looking for that link, go down below the post. No matter where you find it, you should find that link back to Auto Appraisal Network and David and his wonderful team. And you know what, David, this has just touched the surface of what we could talk about. I'm pretty sure and certain of that. But with all that being said, I've really enjoyed having a conversation with you today on the My Future Business Show. Yeah,
well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I always enjoy telling people about what we know and how we can help people.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.